November 17th, 2012. A black shape rises out of the Pacific. It is a container ship. 9 stories of steel, close enough that he can read the rust bleeding down its hull. He stands in a boat that is barely a boat anymore, a body that is mostly bone now, sun-blackened, wasted down to a thing that should not still be able to move. He waves. He screams until something tears in his chest. The ship does not slow. It does not turn. It slides across the horizon and shrinks, and then it is gone. He sits back down. He looks at the empty seat across from him, where someone used to be, and he starts to talk to it. This man has been alone on the open ocean for more than a year. By the time it ends, he will have drifted over 6,000 miles and survived 438 days of adrift, longer than any human being in recorded history. No motors, no sail, no radio. And the cruelest part is not hunger. It is that ships came, close enough to see, and not even one of them stopped. How does a man survive 438 days alone at sea? And when rescue finally came close enough to touch, why did no one stop? Costa Azul, Mexico, November 17th, 2012. The town smells of salt and smoke. José Salvador Alvarenga is in his mid-30s, and he has worked this coast for years, a stocky, fearless man the other fishermen know as someone who goes where the cautious won't. Far out, past the sight of land, into the deep water where the sharks run. That is what they do here. The tiburoneros, shark hunters. They take small open boats hundreds of miles offshore, set their lines through the night, and bring the catch back before the weather turns. It is dangerous, ordinary work. Today is supposed to be ordinary. His usual partner can't make the run. So, he takes a kid instead of Ezequiel Cordoba, 22 years old, who has barely set foot on the open ocean. They are not friends. They hardly know each other. Alvarenga needs a second pair of hands. Cordoba needs the money. That is the entire arrangement. They load supplies for a day, maybe 2. Bait, hooks, a few jugs of water, a little food, fuel, and a cooler of ice for the catch. The plan is simple. Go out, fill the boat, come home before dark on the second day. The weather does not care about the plan. A norther rolls in a storm front far meaner than the forecast promised. The wind stacks the sea into moving walls. The little boat climbs them and slams down the far side repeatedly, and the spray comes sideways like thrown gravel. Alvarenga has ridden storms before. He turns home and opens the throttle, and the engine dies. Salt water has drowned the motor. He yanks the starter's cord. Nothing. He yanks it again and again until his shoulder is on fire, and the boat just lifts and drops, turning broadside to the waves that want to roll it. He grabs the radio. He raises his boss back on shore, and the words come out, fast engines gone. We're being blown out to sea. Come find us, track our position. He gives them everything he can. And then the radio, soaked through, gives one last dying crackle. Come find us, he says. We're going out. And it goes dead. That is the last voice from land he will hear for 14 months. The storm is shoving them away from the coast faster than any man could row back, and the boat is taking on water faster than 2 men can throw it out. So, they fight the only way left. They dump the catch for the entire reason they came, hundreds of pounds of it, over the side to ride higher, and they bail, hour after hour, day after day, 2 men and 2 buckets against the whole ocean. For 5 days the norther hammers them. 5 days of bailing, of no sleep, of a horizon erased by gray water. Cordoba is terrified, and Alvarenga cannot blame him. The kid has never seen anything like this. Neither, if he is honest, has he. There is a particular helplessness in being a strong man with nothing to push against. Alvarenga has spent his whole life beating the sea with skill and muscle and stubbornness. But you cannot muscle a current. You cannot out-stubborn a wind that blows for 5 days without stopping. For the first time in his life, his strength is useless to him. The boat goes exactly where the water decides, and all his hard hands can do is bail and hold on and wait to find out where they have been taken. Then, on the 6th day, the storm breaks. The wind drops. The sea flattens into a long, oily swell. The sun cuts through. And for the first time in nearly a week, Alvarenga stands up straight to find out where the storm has left them. He turns a slow, full circle. Water, in every direction, all the way to the edge of the world water. No coastline, no mountains, no other boats, no smudge of smoke, no glint of a town, no line where the land should be. Nothing. And he understands, all at once, the thing that will define the next year of his life. No one saw where the storm took them. No one knows where they are. The norther didn't just nearly kill them. It did something worse. It hid them. No one is coming, because no one on earth knows where to look. How do you keep two men alive on an empty boat in open ocean? And how long can a person endure before the sea finally takes what it wants? Alvarenga has no bait, no working lines, no net. What he has is a lifetime of reading the water and a pair of hands, so he uses them. He learns to take fish with his fingers, holding still as the hull, waiting until something drifts close enough to grab, then striking faster than thought. He snatches seabirds off the gunwale before they can lift them away. He hauls sea turtles up out of the swell by their shells, flips them into the boat, and works them open with a knife already worn down to a sliver. Triggerfish, small sharks. Whatever the sea hands him, he takes. He builds a pantry out of an empty ocean. Water is the harder enemy. Rain is the only fresh water for 1,000 miles in any direction. So when it falls, he catches every drop he can rig tarps and jugs, and anything that floats past into a crude system to funnel the rain into bottles. When the rain stops, he drinks the blood of the turtles. And when even that runs out, he drinks his own urine because the choice is no longer clean and dirty. It is alive and dead. And you would do it too. That is the quiet, uncomfortable truth at the center of every survival story ever told. You think you would never drink that, never eat that, never sink that low, right up until the only thing waiting on the other side of never is your own death. Then never gets very small, very fast. The sun is its own slow murderer. So, he turns the one thing the boat still gives him, the empty fiberglass icebox. The cooler built to hold the catch into a shelter just big enough to crawl inside, and he hides from the light in a box made to keep dead fish cold. The ocean has a sense of humor about these things. It is not a kind one. Day after day, he keeps two men alive on almost nothing. And then, on the flat line of the horizon, the impossible gift appears. A cargo ship, big and slow and gloriously man-made. They have no flares, nothing that burns, nothing that flashes. So they do what little they can. They wave. They scream until their throats tear. Alvarenga ties something bright to an oar and swings it at the sky with everything he has. The ship holds its course. It does not slow. It does not turn. It pulls its great gray bulk past them and over the curve of the world, and the silence it leaves behind is louder than the storm ever was. That silence does something to the kid, because here is the thing no survival manual ever tells you. The body is not the first thing to die out here. Hope is. Cordoba's body rejects this place from the start. He cannot keep down the raw fish, the bloody turtle meat, the slick handfuls of whatever Alvarenga puts in front of him. He gags. He sickens. He shrinks. And as his body weakens, something underneath it weakens too. He stops believing there is any reason to force the food down at all. He stops eating. He starts, quietly, to give up. And the whole shape of Alvarenga's ordeal changes. He is no longer a man surviving the sea. He is a man trying to keep another man alive against that man's own will. He pleads with him. He chews the food first to make it easier to swallow. He swears rescue is coming tomorrow, the next day, soon kind lies, the only kind worth telling, because the truth would kill the kid faster than the hunger. And if you have made it this far into the boat with them, if you feel the weight of what it is to keep someone breathing when they have stopped wanting to, that is exactly the kind of story this channel was built to tell. Subscribe and stay in the boat, because what Cordoba asks for next is the thing Alvarenga will carry for the rest of his life. You cannot force hope into another person. He is learning that, slowly, in the worst classroom on earth. He can put food in Cordoba's hands. He cannot put the will to eat it into his heart. One night, weak and folding in on himself, Cordoba asks for something. Not food, not rescue. He makes Alvarenga promise. If you live, he says, find my mother Tell her what happened to me, Alvarenga promises. And only later does he understand what that promise really was. Because a man only asks you to carry word to his mother when he already knows, with total certainty, that he is not going to make it home. What does a dying man's promise do to the one still breathing? And how long before the ocean comes to collect on it? Around 4 months in, Ezequiel Cordoba dies. It is not violent. It is not sudden. He simply fades, stops eating, then stops drinking, then stops answering, and one morning the boat that held 2 men holds 1 living man and 1 body, and Alvarenga cannot accept it. So he does something that, on dry land, in a normal life, would sound like madness. He keeps Cordoba in the boat, for days. He arranges him, he talks to him, he tells him about the weather, the water, the birds overhead. He asks him questions, and then, in Cordoba's voice, he answers himself. You need to understand why before you judge it. Out here, silence is not the absence of sound. It is a pressure. It presses on the mind until the mind begins to crack, and a cracking mind will do anything not to be alone. A dead friend who still seems to listen is better than an empty boat and the roar of nothing. The conversation is a lie, and the lie is the only thing standing between Alvarenga and the dark. He catches himself saving the best of each day for Cordoba. A strange colored fish, a sudden shift in the wind, a bird that lands and stays. He turns to share it before he remembers there is no one left to share it with. And then he tells the body anyway. That is how far he has gone. That is how heavy the silence has become, heavy enough that a dead man is better company than the truth. For about 6 days he talks to the corpse. 6 days in which the line between the living man and the dead one starts to blur, in which he is no longer entirely sure which of the 2 of them is still really here. This is the true horror of the open ocean, not the shark, not the storm. A human being's own mind, turning against him in the one place on earth where there is no one left to pull him back. And then somehow, a piece of him surfaces. A cold, clear thought cuts straight through the fog. If you keep talking to a dead man, you will become one. You will lose your mind out here first, and then you will lose your life. So he does the hardest thing he has done yet. He says goodbye. He commits Ezequiel Cordoba's body to the sea, lowers him into the water and lets him go, and watches the ocean fold over the only other human being for 1,000 miles in any direction. The grief nearly finishes the job the sea could not. The guilt is worse. Cordoba came on this trip because Alvarenga needed a hand. The kid trusted him. And now the kid is gone, and Alvarenga is the one still breathing. And for what? For this? For more water? He looks over the side. It would be so easy. 1 step. The ocean has wanted him for months. He could simply stop saying no. He thinks about it seriously. He stands at the very edge of his own soul and looks down into it. And 2 things hold him back from the water. The first is the promise. Somewhere on the coast of Mexico there is a mother who does not yet know her son is dead. He swore he would find her. A dead man's last request, still unkept. If he steps off this boat, that promise drowns with him, and Cordoba truly vanishes, unexplained. Gone without a trace into water that no one is even searching. The second is his faith. Alvarenga begins to pray. Not politely. He bargains. He begs. He rages at God and thanks him in the same ragged breath. And he decides, out loud, on an empty ocean, that he will not choose the water. That if he dies, it will be because the sea took him, not because he handed himself over. He chooses to live. For a dead man's mother. For God. For reasons that have nothing to do with his own survival, and everything to do with refusing to stop being human. But the ocean is not impressed by his decision. As he sits there, hollow and resolved, the cruelest truth of all settles over him like a second sun. Surviving Cordoba's death was not the end of the ordeal. Being utterly, completely alone, that has only just begun. How long can one human mind hold out against absolute solitude? And what is left of a man when even time stops moving? Alvarenga builds a routine because a routine is a kind of sanity. He takes what the sea gives him with his hands. He prays at first light. He sings hymns, half-remembered songs. anything that puts a human sound into the silence and proves he is still a man. He tracks the moon, counting the months by the only calendar he has full, then dark, then full again. He keeps the boat, he keeps himself up, he endures. The numbers turn inhuman, weeks stack into months, months stack past a year. Picture the longest week of your own life, the worst of it, the part you could not wait to be over. Now imagine it did not end. Imagine it simply kept going, the same gray water, for 50 more weeks, with no proof on any horizon that it will ever stop. That is what this man is doing, hour by hour, alone. His body begins to come apart. He starves, and then he swells in the strange bloat of severe malnutrition. His hair grows long and matted, bleached pale and burned. His skin blackens and peels under the sun that never lets up. At his lowest, he eats his own fingernails. He is becoming something that no longer looks like a man at all. A creature of bone and beard and pure refusal, drifting. He keeps count of the moons for a while, marking each full one where he can, until the count itself becomes another thing the sea takes from him. Was that the 12th full moon or the 13th? He loses the number. And losing the number is worse than it sounds, because the number was the last proof that time was still moving forward instead of just circling him like a shark. Without it, every day is the first day and the last day at once. You wake. You are still here. The water is still everywhere. Begin again. And the ships keep coming. This is the part that should make you angry, because it made him angry. And it is the second question this whole story has been carrying since the first minute. More than once, a ship rises out of the sea. More than once, he throws everything he has left into being seen waving, screaming, swinging his marker at the sky with arms that can barely lift. And every single time, the ship holds its line and leaves. Not one stops. One of them comes so close that he can see the lights burning in its windows, little yellow squares of other people's ordinary evening. Someone there is about to eat dinner. Someone is about to sleep in a real bed. Someone is about to complain about something small and forgettable. He is near enough to almost imagine the smell of their food. He screams until something tears in his chest. The lights slide past unhurried and blink out one by one over the curve of the world, and he is left holding the silence they leave behind like a stone in both hands. Think about what that does to a person. The ocean trying to kill you is just nature. It is cruel, but it is honest. It owes you nothing, and it tells you so. A ship is different. A ship is people. Warm bunks, hot food, working radios, a whole small world of the living passing close enough to make out, and choosing, through indifference or blindness, to leave you to die. The sea breaks your body. The ships break your faith in everyone in it. After a while, he cannot even be sure the ships are real. His mind, stretched this thin for this long, begins to invent things, or does it? He sees vessels that may not be there. He hears voices that no one is speaking. Reality and hallucinations smear into each other until he can no longer fully trust his own eyes. And that is its own private terror, to be a drowning man who can't be certain the rope he sees is real. Hope and despair stop being feelings and become weather. They roll in, they roll out. They cancel each other to a flat gray nothing. He is by now a praying skeleton in a ruined boat. He has done everything right. Every single thing a human being can do to stay alive, he has done for more than a year. And the ocean has paid him back with exactly nothing. There is the whole joke of it, if you can call it that. Out here, doing everything right only buys you the right to do it all again tomorrow. He talks to God now the way he once talked to the corpse out loud, constantly, filling the silence before it can fill him. Some days he is certain he is being kept alive for a reason he cannot yet see. Other days he is certain he is being punished, though he could not tell you what. And both of those certainties get him to sunset, which is the only theology that means anything out here. A man who had stopped believing in everything would have stepped off the boat months ago. Belief, even angry belief, even half-broken belief that argues and accuses, turns out to be load-bearing. And still, this is the part that matters most. He does not stop. He does not stop because stopping stopped being an option back in that boat with the body. He made his choice. He will not hand himself to the water. So he prays, and he sings to no one, and he survives another day he has no earthly reason to believe in. And then, after more than a year, with his body finally beginning to fail for good, he sees something on the horizon. It is not a ship. It is low. It is green. And it does not move the way ships move. It has the shape, he barely lets himself form the word, of land. And here is the cruelty folded inside the miracle. He does not dare believe it. He has seen ships that were not there. He has heard voices that were never spoken. His own eyes have lied to him for months. If that green shape is land, it is salvation. If it is one more hallucination, it may be the one that finally breaks him for good. Is the shape on the horizon real? Or is his mind finally giving up? And after 438 days, will the ocean let him go or pull him under at the threshold? The land is real. It is a tiny, remote atoll in the Marshall Islands, a scatter of coral and palm in the middle of the Pacific, thousands of miles from the coast of Mexico where all of this began. No ship saved him, no search party, no rescue, no radio call ever answered. The ocean itself, by pure blind chance, carried him here after 438 days of adrift. When he is close enough, he goes into the water he has feared and bargained with and prayed to for 14 months, and he drags his ruined body across the reef and onto a beach. He makes landfall on his own. The sea did not give him up. He took himself back from it, one crawl at a time, on his hands and his knees. A couple living on the atoll finds him, and what they find does not look human. A skeletal figure, hair to his shoulders, beard matted, skin black and peeling, barely able to stand, clutching a knife and raving in a language they do not understand. He has been alone so long that he has nearly forgotten how to be among people at all. So here, at last, is the answer to the question we started with. How did this man survive 438 days lost at sea, longer than any person in recorded history? Not luck. Luck got him to the island. It did not keep him alive long enough to reach it. Not rescue, no one rescued him. Not skill alone, though the skill was real, and it was extraordinary. He survived because he never stopped being human, because he made a promise, because he prayed, because on the worst day of all, he chose to live for someone other than himself. The world never saved him. He simply refused to the very end to let the ocean have him. You would think a story like that ends in celebration. It does not, because when his story reaches the world's first reaction is not awe, it is doubt. The number is too big. The distance is too far. It is impossible, the experts say. A man cannot drift that long and live. This is a hoax, a lie, a cover for something darker. He survives the ocean only to wash up into a sea of accusation. Sit with the shape of that for a second. He spends 14 months praying to be seen, screaming at ships to look at him, just once, just long enough, and the moment the entire world finally does look at him, it calls him a liar. The one thing he wanted most out there becomes one more thing that wounds him here. There is no warm room at the end of this story. There is just a different kind of ocean with different kinds of waves. It takes science to defend him. Oceanographers trace the currents, the great westward rivers of the Pacific, and they run the drift, and they find that yes, a boat lost off Mexico in that storm could be carried exactly this far, exactly this way, to exactly this atoll. The water itself testifies on his behalf. The map confirms the impossible. And then comes the cruelest turn of all. He is accused of the unthinkable, that to survive, he must have killed and consumed the young man who died beside him. A lawsuit surfaces with the claim, just as his name reaches the world. The man who endured the longest solitude ever recorded, who carried a dying stranger's last wish across an entire ocean, is repaid with the ugliest suspicion a human being can be handed. He denies it, simply and without theater. And the one voice that could have condemned him does the opposite. Cordoba's own mother says she does not blame him, and she does not believe it. She knows her son was sick. She knows what the sea does to people. The accusation never holds. And Alvarenga keeps his promise. He goes to Cordoba's family. He finds the mother he swore, on an empty ocean with no reason left to believe he would live, that he would find. And he tells her what happened to her son, how he lived, how he died, that he was not alone at the end, that someone stayed with him and grieved him and carried his name back to dry land. He delivers a dead man's goodbye, 14 months late, across 2 countries and 1 impossible ocean. The promise made in the dark is kept in the light. That was a victory. That was always a victory. It costs him. It costs him forever. He cannot go back into the ocean. The sight of it undoes him. Some nights he cannot sleep. He is haunted by the water and the silence and the empty seat in the boat that he once filled with a dead man's voice. But he is alive. He is sober. He prays. And he finds his way back to the daughter he had abandoned years before the family he had walked away from. Returned to at last by a man the sea could not keep. He will tell people later that he never wanted to be a record. He did not set out to outlast history. He only ever tried to live one more day, and then one more. And the days happened to pile, behind his back, into a number no human being had ever survived before him. Heroism, it turns out, is mostly just refusing to die on a Tuesday and then refusing again on Wednesday, and every single day after that, long past the point where anyone is left to see you do it. So change what the number means. 438 days is not a survival record. It is the longest act of staying human and keeping one's word that anyone has ever measured. The ocean took his strength. It took his friend. It nearly took his mind. It never touched the one thing he refused, through all of it, to surrender. He survived because he kept his word to a dead man. The sea wanted his body. It nearly took his mind. It never touched his soul. 438 days alone, and the last thing still alive in that boat was his humanity. And if this one stayed with you, the next trades open ocean for 1,000 feet of vertical rock. A man falls climbing alone, hears the snap in his own neck, and wakes on a ledge with no rescue coming and a spine that should not be moving. Alvarenga had a sea and a promise. He had a broken body and one shattered route down. The story of Colby Coombs, the man the mountain tried to keep and couldn't. Watch that next, because some people survive what the world does to them, and some survive what their own body refuses to do anymore.